You are here because you feel the weight, those toxic thoughts circling like vultures, waiting for you to slip. Every man faces them, few conquer them, and fewer still learn to weaponize the silence that follows. But listen carefully now, because this is where most people turn back and where you begin your ascent. Your mind is not a sanctuary, it's a battlefield. The enemy is internal, whispers, doubts, imaginary catastrophes that feed on your hesitation. They're silent assassins trained to strike when you're tired, emotional, or distracted. If you allow them space, they multiply. If you grant them mercy, they take your throne. But you didn't come here for mercy. You came to reclaim command. A weak mind serves its emotions. A powerful mind bends them to its will. Machiavelli understood this truth. Peace is not the absence of conflict, it's the domination of it. And so today, you begin not by calming your thoughts, but by governing them, coldly, methodically, without apology. Before we continue, leave your mark. Comment this phrase as a declaration of control. My mind bends to my will. Let the world see the beginning of your shift. Let them witness the man you're about to become. Number 1, cutting the poison at the root. Before a man rises, he must amputate what weakens him, not softly, not gradually, decisively. Toxic thoughts don't disappear through positive thinking, they disappear through strategic elimination. Machiavelli would tell you, if a threat must be dealt with, it must be dealt with completely. Half measures grow into future enemies, and the same is true inside your mind. You must begin by identifying the source of the poison. Not every thought comes from you. Some come from fear. Some come from insecurity. Some were planted by people who benefit from you staying small. Study them like an enemy's footprint in the dirt. Observe what triggers them. Observe when they attack. The moment you map their behavior, they lose their advantage. A threat exposed is a threat weakened. When a toxic thought surfaces, don't negotiate with it. Don't argue with it. Don't ask it to be reasonable. Instead, confront it with cold authority. Remind it who commands this internal kingdom. Strip it of emotional charge by naming it. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. Calling a thought by its true name removes its disguise, and once it's unmasked, it becomes small, manageable, contained. Now here's the shift few men ever reach. You don't just silence toxic thoughts, you redirect them. Every dark fear contains hidden information. A toxic thought about failure reveals where you must train harder. A doubt about your worth exposes an area where strength must be built. Instead of fleeing from discomfort, you convert it into fuel. Pain becomes strategy. Doubt becomes data. Fear becomes intel for war. This is how a man becomes untouchable. Not by avoiding the darkness, but by using it as a map. But be warned, this transformation demands discipline. You must develop a ritual of mental purging. Each morning, examine the thoughts that try to infiltrate your focus. Ask yourself, does this serve my rise or sabotage it? Anything that sabotages your rise is an enemy. And a wise ruler does not tolerate enemies within his own gates. Before we move deeper, anchor your shift with another declaration. Comment this phrase below. I cut the poison at the root. Say it so your future self can't deny the promise you make today. Number 2, the discipline of inner ruthlessness. A man who seeks mastery must be willing to impose order where others allow chaos. Inside your mind, this means embracing a level of inner ruthlessness that weak men fear. You cannot clear toxic thoughts by hoping they fade. You clear them by enforcing standards the way a ruler imposes law, not through kindness, through clarity, through dominance, through unwavering self-governance. Most people crumble because they're too gentle with themselves. They tolerate mental laziness. They negotiate with excuses. They allow emotional storms to dictate their direction, like unstable rulers guided by trembling advisors. But you are not here to rule like a frightened prince. You're here to rule like a strategist, calm, calculating, unshaken by noise. Your past mistakes, strip them of their emotional weight. Guilt is a tool used by the undisciplined to justify stagnation. You look at your past with the same detachment a general looks at old battle reports, useful for analysis, irrelevant for identity. Each failure becomes a lesson. Each scar becomes a blueprint. Each regret becomes a warning of what not to repeat. That is the Machiavellian way. Turn misfortune into machinery. But discipline is not merely mental, it is environmental. The mind is shaped by what surrounds it, and toxic thoughts thrive in toxic environments. A cluttered room becomes a cluttered head. A phone filled with pointless notifications becomes a mental minefield. People who gossip, complain, or drain your energy become psychological parasites. You must purge them with cold efficiency. Ask yourself, who benefits from my distraction? Who profits from my weakness? Who grows stronger when I stay unfocused? Cut them off. Not dramatically, strategically. Machiavelli understood that power is preserved through discretion, not theatrics. You do not announce the removal of influences. You simply remove them quietly, permanently. Then comes the harder purge, eliminating the versions of yourself you've outgrown, the hesitant you, the insecure you, the self-doubting you. These inner ghosts cling just as tightly as any external enemy. But understand, you cannot build a fortified kingdom on top of an abandoned ruin. You must demolish the old structure first. This requires brutal honesty. Look into your past behaviors and admit where you've been weak. Admit where you've avoided responsibility. Admit where you've chosen comfort over discipline. These admissions are not meant to shame you. They are meant to liberate you. Once you know your weaknesses, you can destroy them. Once you know your patterns, you can rewrite them. This is how you detach from who you were and sculpt who you must become. Now, let's talk about emotional sovereignty. Emotional control is not the absence of feeling. It is the refusal to be ruled by feeling. Anger, fear, jealousy, insecurity. These emotions can overthrow a man from within if left unchecked, but when mastered, they become weapons. Anger becomes drive, fear becomes preparation, jealousy becomes ambition, insecurity becomes motivation. This is dark psychology in its purest form, transforming inner shadows into strategic advantage. You must also build the discipline of mental redirection. Whenever a toxic thought tries to invade, you immediately shift your attention to a productive action. Push-ups, deep breathing, planning your next goal, reading a page from a powerful book, taking a cold shower. The body listens faster than the mind. Action breaks mental loops. This trains your brain to obey you, not the storms that try to sabotage you. Every day, you must reaffirm your identity, not through empty affirmations, but through action. The man you're becoming is built in the quiet hours, when you rise earlier than comfort wants, when you work longer than excuses allow, when you study while others scroll, when you train while others complain. This is how mental clarity becomes a lifestyle, not a temporary spike of motivation. Before we continue deeper, mark your evolution again. Comment this phrase below: I rule my mind with ruthless discipline. Let it stand as proof that you've stepped into a higher form of yourself. Number 3, forging the iron mind. Before a man becomes powerful in the world, he must become invincible in the chambers of his own mind. Power does not begin with money, status, or connections. It begins with the invisible discipline of thought. What separates the strong from the weak is not opportunity, but internal fortitude. A man with an iron mind could start with nothing and still rise. A man with a fragile mind could inherit a kingdom and still lose it. So today we forge your iron mind. And understand this: an iron mind is not born, it is hammered. Under pressure, under discomfort, under silence, under brutal honesty. The first hammer blow is detachment. Detachment is not emotional numbness. It's emotional selectivity. It is the ability to feel deeply while choosing which feelings deserve your energy. Weak men react to everything. Powerful men react to almost nothing. You must begin to see your emotions as advisors, not rulers. They may speak, but you decide whether they influence your actions. Detachment also means this: you do not let people's opinions invade your mental territory. The moment you let someone's criticism sit in your mind rent-free, you've invited an enemy into your castle. But a Machiavellian mind knows better. Opinions are data, nothing more. Some reveal envy, some reveal misunderstanding, some reveal truth, but none have the authority to define your identity unless you allow them. The second hammer blow is strategic solitude. In solitude, distractions die, clarity sharpens, and self-mastery grows. Most people avoid being alone because silence exposes them. But you, if you aim to be untouchable, must seek solitude deliberately. Spend time with no music, no noise, no phone, just your breathing and your thoughts. At first, the darkness inside you will scream. Let it, eventually, it will kneel. This is where you learn to command your inner world without external reinforcement. The third hammer blow is endurance. Not physical endurance, mental endurance. The ability to stay focused when your mind wants escape. The ability to stay disciplined when your emotions want comfort. The ability to keep moving when everything inside you wants to stop. Endurance is built through resistance. That means choosing the harder path, not once, but consistently. When your mind says, "I'm tired," you respond with, "Do one more." When it says, "Give up," you whisper back, "Watch me." Every act of endurance is a vote for the man you want to become. The fourth hammer blow is internal order. Clarity requires structure. A chaotic mind cannot produce focused action. You must create rituals that reinforce stability. Wake at the same time, train at the same time. Plan your days with intention. Guard your mornings like a fortress, because the first hour of your day sets the tone for everything that follows. Power belongs to the man who organizes his life with precision, not rigidity, but purpose. Internal order also means eliminating mental clutter. Every unresolved task is a drain on your energy. Every postponed responsibility is a leak in your mental armor. You must become ruthless in execution. If something needs doing, do it now. Clutter breeds anxiety. Action breeds clarity. By mastering small tasks, you prove to your mind that you are the commander, and commands must be obeyed. The fifth hammer blow is selective focus. Your attention is your currency. What you give it to, you feed. What you withdraw it from, you starve. Toxic thoughts survive because you feed them attention. Withdraw your attention, and they starve. Redirect your attention, and they die. Machiavelli believed a ruler must know what deserves focus and what deserves neglect. The same is true within your own mind. Focus only on what strengthens you. Neglect everything that weakens you. Understand this truth. Distraction is the modern man's downfall. Social media, gossip, entertainment, noise. These are not harmless habits. They're chains. They keep you mentally domesticated, unable to think independently, unable to develop the cold clarity required for real power. If you want an iron mind, you must train your attention with the same intensity a warrior trains his body. The sixth hammer blow is self-respect, not the soft modern version. The ancient version. The version that demands excellence from yourself. The version that refuses to tolerate disrespect from others or from yourself. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your authority over your mind. Every time you keep a promise, no matter how small, you reinforce the idea that your words carry weight, that you can rely on yourself, that you are not a man of intention, but a man of execution. Real self-respect is built through discipline, and discipline is the highest form of self-love a strong man can practice. The seventh hammer blow is mental sovereignty. This is the peak. This is the place where your mind no longer moves impulsively, no longer bends under pressure, no longer bows to fear. This is where you control your inner dialogue with precision. You speak to yourself like a commander before battle, calm, direct, strategic. You no longer say, "I hope." You say, "I will." You no longer say, "I'm trying." You say, "I execute." You no longer say, "I can't." You say, "I'm learning." This is sovereignty. And sovereignty is freedom. Before we move into the next evolution, anchor your transformation again. Comment this phrase below. My mind is iron. My will is law. Let the world witness the man you are becoming. Number 4. Mastering the dark corners of your mind. Before we proceed, understand this clearly. What we are doing is not shallow self-help. This is psychological reconstruction. You are carving out a new internal hierarchy where your fears kneel, your doubts serve, and your thoughts obey. Nothing about this process is gentle. Nothing about it is soft. You are implementing the laws of mental sovereignty, laws written in discipline, enforced through action, and sustained by absolute self-command. This section takes you into the dark corners of your mind, the places most people avoid, deny, or run from. But power is found in those very shadows. Machiavelli taught that a wise ruler must understand not only virtue, but vice, the full spectrum of human nature. If you understand the darkness within you, you cannot be manipulated by it, and if you master it, you become unstoppable. So let's begin. 1. The shadow self, your hidden weapon. Every man carries a shadow self, the part of him filled with impulses, fears, traumas, instincts, desires, insecurities, and raw emotion. Most people try to suppress this shadow, pretend it isn't there, hide it under forced positivity. But suppression is not control. Suppression only strengthens what you refuse to confront. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is your untamed power. It is the raw energy inside you that, if properly directed, becomes your edge. Anger can become determination. Fear can become strategic foresight. Jealousy can become ambition. Pain can become resilience. Obsession can become mastery. When you deny your shadow, you deny your potential. When you integrate it, you become whole, and a whole man. A man who knows both his light and darkness is untouchable. 2. The discipline of thought interrogation. Toxic thoughts only survive when you accept them as truth. But when you interrogate them, they collapse under pressure. Whenever a toxic thought appears, confront it with 3 ruthless questions. Is this thought fact or fear? Most toxic thoughts are speculation, not reality. Strip away the emotion, and you'll see they have no foundation. Does this thought strengthen me or weaken me? If it weakens you, it must be replaced, immediately, no negotiation. Who would I be without this thought? Picture the version of yourself unburdened. That is the man you're building. This interrogation turns fear into information, negativity into clarity, and inner chaos into order. 3. Emotional transmutation, the dark psychology advantage. Weak men drown in their emotions. Strong men transmute them. Transmutation means taking emotional energy, no matter how dark, and reshaping it into something useful. This is dark psychology applied internally. You're not manipulating others, you're manipulating your own emotional landscape. If you feel anger, ask, what needs to change? What must be confronted? If you feel insecurity, ask, what skill must I develop? What area needs reinforcement? If you feel fear, ask, what preparation must I make? Where is the threat? How do I outmaneuver it? This is how you weaponize emotion instead of being wounded by it. 4. Mental minimalism, clearing cognitive noise. Power requires focus, and focus requires simplicity. Your mind must become a clean, sharp, functional space, not a hoarder's attic. This is where mental minimalism becomes essential. Cut out unnecessary decisions. Cut out unnecessary commitments. Cut out unnecessary noise. Cut out unnecessary people. Cut out unnecessary habits. You are not simplifying for comfort. You are simplifying for domination. The fewer distractions you carry, the sharper your mind becomes. The sharper your mind becomes, the more unstoppable your actions become. 5. The ritual of recalibration. Every powerful man has a ritual where he recalibrates his mind. It can be daily, weekly, or both, but it must exist. This ritual can include journaling your strategic thoughts, reviewing your goals with cold clarity, sitting in silence and observing your mental patterns, analyzing your behavior like a general reviews battlefield movements, resetting your focus for the next phase of your life. This ritual becomes your anchor, your way to maintain accuracy, adjust direction, and preserve internal power even when life becomes chaotic. 6. Building a fortress of inner silence. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is strength. Inner silence is the ability to remain calm while your circumstances shift, to stay centered while the world becomes loud, and to hold your composure when emotions try to overthrow your logic. Most people fear silence because silence forces them to face themselves. But you, if you desire mastery, must build your life around it. Inner silence is where strategy forms. Inner silence is where clarity emerges. Inner silence is where the untouchable man is forged. Practice silence daily, even for 5 minutes. No distractions, no movement, no escape. Just you facing yourself. This practice strengthens your psychological armor. 7. The law of selective influence. A powerful mind does not allow random influences to shape it. You must be selective with what enters your mental kingdom. Your influences, books, voices, ideas, environments, conversations, shape your psychology. If you expose yourself to weak influences, you become weak. If you expose yourself to strong influences, you become strong. This is why Machiavelli warned rulers to choose advisors carefully. The wrong voices lead to destruction. The right voices lead to victory. Surround yourself with strength, discipline, intelligence, strategy, ambition, and you will absorb those traits through proximity. 8. The death of the old identity. Every powerful transformation requires the death of an outdated identity. The man you were is not capable of carrying the weight of the man you're becoming. You must let that older version of you die, quietly, intentionally, mercilessly. The version that procrastinated died. The version that doubted itself died. The version that sought validation died. The version that feared judgment died. You are not improving, you are replacing. You are not healing, you are restructuring. You are not coping, you are evolving. This is the dark truth of transformation. You must bury who you were to unleash who you must become. 9. The declaration of dominance. Before we continue, make another mark on your transformation. Comment this phrase below. I command my darkness and control my destiny. Let this be written publicly, an oath to your future self. You are not just clearing toxic thoughts, you are mastering your mind. You are constructing psychological dominance. You are becoming the sovereign of your internal world. Number 5. Unshakable focus. Becoming immune to distraction. Focus is not a skill. Focus is not a habit. Focus is a weapon, and very few men know how to wield it. In a world addicted to noise, the man who can hold his attention becomes a giant among insects. The modern world is engineered to make you mentally weak. Every notification is a leash. Every distraction is a chain. Every convenience is a sedative. But you, if you are serious about becoming untouchable, must reject this mental slavery with the cold precision of a ruler defending his kingdom. This section will show you how to build unshakable focus, the kind of focus that makes people wonder if you're carved from stone or wired differently, and you will be, because powerful focus is not gifted. It's trained, forged under pressure, and maintained through ruthless boundaries. 1. The Machiavellian view of attention. Machiavelli taught that a ruler must guard what is most valuable. Today, the most valuable currency is not gold. It's attention. Attention determines where your life moves. Attention determines what grows in your mind. Attention determines your achievements, your failures, your relationships, your destiny. When you give your attention away recklessly, you weaken yourself. When you guard it, you become dangerous. Ask yourself, who or what steals my attention? Who profits from my distraction? Who becomes stronger when I become weaker? Then cut those influences without hesitation. Every minute stolen from your focus is a minute stolen from your future power. 2. The art of controlled environments. A man who relies on willpower alone is a man destined to fail. Willpower is a spark. Environment is fuel. If your environment is chaotic, your mind will mirror it. To build an unshakable focus, you must shape your surroundings like a strategist preparing for war. Remove unnecessary objects from your workspace. Turn your phone off or put it in another room. Keep only tools that support your mission. Create a physical space that commands discipline. A well-structured environment becomes an extension of your mind. When your space is simplified, your focus becomes amplified. 3. The Stoic rule of single-task domination. Multitasking is a lie sold to the unfocused. The mind is sharpest when aimed at one target with laser precision. Stoics understood this principle deeply. Do one thing at a time and do it with your full force. When you work, work. When you train, train. When you study, study. When you rest, rest. Most men scatter their energy across a dozen half-hearted tasks. But the man who directs all his force toward one objective becomes unstoppable. He finishes what others abandon. He masters what others dabble in. He achieves what others only fantasize about. 4. Cognitive fasting, the purge of mental junk. Your mind consumes information the way your body consumes food. And just like your body needs fasting, your mind needs it too. Cognitive fasting means intentionally eliminating mental junk. Stop scrolling. Stop over-consuming media. Stop jumping between apps and tabs. Stop reacting to every piece of stimulation. When you fast from noise, your mind resets. Your attention sharpens. Your creativity awakens. Your inner clarity returns with brutal strength. Try this 1 hour daily, 1 day weekly, 1 week yearly. During this time, your mind repairs itself, and when it returns, it's stronger. 5. The warrior's morning, commanding the first hour. The first hour of your day is the throne room of your mind. Guard it like your life depends on it, because it does. Weak men wake up and immediately surrender their attention to their phone. Strong men wake up and immediately reclaim their authority. Your morning must become a ritual of power. Silence before noise. Movement before comfort. Intention before distraction. Strategy before reaction. Whether you meditate, breathe deeply, exercise, study, or plan, start your day with ownership. When you command the first hour, the rest obeys. 6. The cold power of boredom. Training. Boredom is mental withdrawal. Most people panic when they're bored, reaching instinctively for stimulation. But if you can sit in boredom without breaking, you develop God-tier focus. Because boredom tolerance equals distraction immunity. Train this. Sit quietly, no phone, no music, no entertainment, nothing happening. You'll feel restless. Good. That's weakness leaving your system. Over time, your tolerance grows, your cravings die, your attention stabilizes. You become the kind of man who can stay present even in silence, a rare, lethal skill. 7. Identifying your focus leaks. Every man has weak points, places where his attention slips. You must identify them with cold precision. Ask yourself, when do I lose focus most easily? What triggers my distraction? What emotional state makes me most vulnerable? Once identified, you fortify those weak points like a general reinforcing exposed walls. If you procrastinate at night, shut down mentally earlier. If you scroll during stress, replace scrolling with a physical habit. If you lose focus around certain people, limit their access. You fix your focus by fixing the cracks. 8. Emotional neutrality, the peak of focus power. Focus collapses under emotional pressure, Anxiety scatters the mind, anger rushes it, sadness slows it, excitement overstimulates it. To achieve unshakable focus, you must practice emotional neutrality, a state where emotions exist but do not steer you. This doesn't mean emotional numbness, it means emotional obedience. When emotions arise, acknowledge them, then return to the task. Do not fight emotions, that gives them power. Do not obey emotions, that gives them control. Simply let them pass like a storm over a fortress. This is the cold, stoic, masculine center. This is what makes a man immovable. 9. The ritual of daily return. Even the strongest mind slips. Even the most disciplined loses focus. What separates the powerful from the powerless is the ability to return quickly. This ritual is simple. When you lose focus, don't punish yourself. Don't spiral. Don't quit. Return. Refocus. Re-engage. The faster you return, the sharper you become. Over time, your mental snaps back into discipline like a trained soldier. 10. Your declaration of mastered focus. Before we move to the next chapter of your evolution, anchor your transformation again. Comment this phrase below. My focus is unshakable. My mind obeys me. Say it publicly. Let them watch you ascend. Number 6. The psychology of power, becoming mentally untouchable. Power begins long before you speak, act, or conquer. Power begins in the tiniest thoughts you allow or deny entry into your mind. A man becomes untouchable the moment he masters the psychology of power, the internal architecture that shapes his presence, his decisions, and his influence. This section will teach you how to forge that psychology, not the watered-down version sold by shallow, mental toughness books, but the dark, strategic, Machiavellian version, rooted in realism, sovereignty, and psychological command. Let's begin. 1. Command presence, the aura of inner authority. Power is not loud, power is not aggressive. Power is a quiet certainty that radiates from a man who has mastered himself. Presence begins in your mind long before it shows in your posture or speech. The more stable your inner world is, the more pressure you can stand. The more pressure you can stand, the more authority you project. You don't need to raise your voice, and you don't need to force dominance. A calm man with controlled thoughts projects a gravity that pulls respect without asking. People trust leaders who do not panic. They follow men who remain still when others shake. When your inner world is calm, your outer world bends around you. 2. The law of internal self-validation. Weak men depend on external validation. Powerful men validate themselves. When your identity is tied to others' approval, you become manipulable. The world can yank your emotions, hijack your focus, and break your confidence with a single comment. You must become the judge, jury, and ruler of your own worth. Look in the mirror and ask, do I approve of myself today? Not, what do they think? Do they like me? Did they judge me? Those questions are for men who live on their knees. The Machiavellian mind knows this truth. Control your self-image, and no one else can control your emotions. 3. The strategic use of vulnerability. Most people weaponize vulnerability against themselves. They overshare, they expose their weaknesses to the wrong audience, they reveal their insecurities hoping for comfort, only to be judged, mocked, or silently measured. You must learn the opposite. Vulnerability is a strategic resource, shared only when necessary, only with the right people, and only after deliberation. A powerful mind knows when to remain silent, knows when to withhold, knows when revealing nothing is the strongest form of control. Mystery increases presence. Selective vulnerability increases trust. Emotional discipline increases respect. 4. The cold psychology of emotional distance. To stay mentally untouchable, you must keep a healthy emotional distance from events, people, and outcomes. Not because you don't care, because you refuse to be controlled. Distance does not mean detachment from life. It means detachment from emotional dependency. You can care without clinging. You can love without losing yourself. You can engage without becoming entangled. A man who can step back mentally, no matter the situation, gains the advantage of clarity, because clarity is impossible when emotions crowd your mental battlefield. Make this a rule. Before reacting, step back. Before deciding, breathe. Before speaking, think. This distance gives you leverage. Leverage gives you power. 5. The iron rule of self-containment. Powerful men do not leak energy. They do not complain. They do not gossip. They do not emotionally spill into every conversation. They contain themselves. Self-containment means holding your internal state together no matter the chaos outside. It means mastering your impulses. It means ensuring no one has access to your inner world without earning it. When you are self-contained, your silence becomes intimidating. Your composure becomes magnetic. Your intentions become unpredictable. Your presence becomes unforgettable. This is the psychology of the man people watch but cannot read, admire but cannot match, respect but cannot control. 6. The predator mindset. Seeing the truth. Others deny. This is not about cruelty. This is about clarity. A predator sees reality as it is, not as he wishes it to be. He observes motives, contradictions, weaknesses, ambitions. He reads the room without speaking. He notices patterns others miss. To develop this, study people, not their words. Analyze actions, not promises. Take note of patterns, not excuses. Watch what they repeat. That's where truth hides. This perception sharpens your psychological blade. It allows you to predict behavior, avoid manipulation, and navigate human nature with strategy, not naivety. 7. Calculated stillness. The power of doing less. Not all power moves require movement. Sometimes the strongest move is stillness. When others rush, you observe. When others panic, you calculate. When others react, you wait. Calculated stillness is not passivity. It's precision. It's the mindset of a man who knows that premature action weakens strategy. If you wait long enough, people reveal their intentions without you lifting a finger. Stillness turns chaos into information. Information turns uncertainty into advantage. Advantage turns you into the one who decides the direction of events. 8. Psychological autonomy. The death of external control. The ultimate goal of power is this: no one can move your mind without your permission. Not fear, not temptation, not emotion, not criticism, not approval, not loss, not pressure. When your mind becomes immune to external forces, your power becomes absolute, because no one can influence the man who chooses his own thoughts. Before we continue, anchor this transformation again. Comment this declaration below. My mind is sovereign. Nothing controls me. Say it publicly. Let the world witness the man you are becoming. Number 7. Turning mental pain into power. Pain is the great sculptor of men. Most run from it. They medicate it, escape it, drown it in distraction. But the man who learns to stand inside pain without flinching becomes something rare, something formidable. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your trainer. Pain reveals parts of you that comfort hides. Pain exposes truths that pleasure refuses to show. And if you wield it correctly, pain becomes the very force that builds your power. You must understand this clearly. Every great transformation begins with discomfort. The mind you want cannot be built inside the comfort you cling to. Pain forces adaptation. It pushes you beyond your limits, stretches your capacity, and burns away the weakness you pretend not to have. When you stop running from pain, you stop running from your potential. To turn mental pain into power, you must first accept it without panic. When fear rises, meet it with stillness. When doubt attacks, analyze it with cold eyes. When insecurity surfaces, observe it like a scientist studying a specimen. The moment you stop reacting and start observing, the power begins to shift. Pain loses its authority over you. You become the one in control. Most people fold because they've been conditioned to believe that discomfort is a warning sign. But for you, it must become a signal of growth. When your mind resists, when your emotions tighten, when your thoughts become heavy, that is the sign you are entering the territory where real evolution happens. Do not retreat. That is the moment to push forward with calm aggression. Now, look at the darkest moments of your life, the heartbreak, the failures, the betrayals, the humiliations, the nights where you questioned your value, the mornings where you could barely stand. Those moments were not meant to destroy you. They were meant to introduce you to the version of yourself that comfort would never push you to meet: the stronger version, the colder version, the more resilient version. Pain was not breaking you, it was forging you. But forging requires your participation. You must learn to reinterpret pain. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Instead of collapsing, you study. Instead of retreating, you refine. A Machiavellian mind extracts power from every blow. It does not waste suffering, it converts it. And here is the hidden truth. Your pain reveals what you care about, and what you care about reveals where your strengths can grow. If pain comes from insecurity, then strength is built through self-mastery. If pain comes from failure, then strength is built through rebuilt discipline. If pain comes from loss, then strength is built through resilience and emotional sovereignty. Pain is a compass pointing toward your next evolution. To master pain, you must also master endurance. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet, persistent endurance that whispers again when your mind says enough. Endurance is the proof of a man's character. Anyone can be strong when life is smooth, but the man who remains unmoved in storms becomes legendary. Pain tests your stability, your resolve, your clarity. Passing those tests earns you internal armor. You must also stop identifying with your pain. The world has taught men to claim their suffering as part of their identity. But Machiavellian psychology knows better. Your pain is an experience, not a definition. It shapes you, but it does not own you. You are not what hurt you. You are what you decide to become after being hurt. And then comes the final shift, using pain to sharpen your purpose. When you feel emotional heaviness, channel it into action. When you feel mental pressure, channel it into focus. When you feel psychological struggle, channel it into self-improvement. Every emotion becomes fuel. Every setback becomes leverage. Every failure becomes instruction. This is how you turn suffering into strength and strength into dominance. Before we move on, leave another mark of your evolution. Comment this phrase below. My pain builds my power. Say it boldly. Say it publicly. It is the truth of your transformation. Number 8. Rebuilding the self. Becoming the man. No one can break. A man is not defined by what he has. He is defined by what he can rebuild. When life fractures you, when losses hit you, when betrayal shatters the ground beneath your feet, you face a choice that divides weak men from powerful ones. Weak men collapse into the pieces. Strong men reshape the pieces. But the rarest, most formidable kind of man, the one who becomes truly untouchable, does not merely rebuild himself. He rebuilds himself stronger, colder, and more controlled than the previous version. This section is about that reconstruction, not the gentle healing the world romanticizes, but the kind of rebuilding forged through discipline, strategy, and ruthless clarity. The rebuilding that produces a man who does not fear loss, because he knows he can always rebuild himself again. Before you rise into that version, you must understand something essential. Destruction often comes before transformation. When the old version of you is burned away, it feels like chaos. It feels like emptiness. It feels like failure. But in reality, it is an invitation, a rare opportunity to redefine the internal architecture of who you are. A man who has been broken and rebuilt is more stable than a man who has never been tested. Why? Because he knows his limits and he knows he can surpass them. He knows his inner faults and he has corrected them. He knows his mental flaws and he has reforged them into strengths. Brokenness is not the end, It is the foundation upon which your next evolution stands. To rebuild yourself, you must first confront the ruins without emotion. Look at the habits that weakened you, the choices that sabotaged you, the people who drained you, the mindsets that betrayed you. Do not soften the analysis. Do not sugarcoat the truth. Be brutally honest. A Machiavellian ruler studies the failures of his kingdom without flinching, and you must study the failures within your own mind the same way. You may discover that your weaknesses were not accidental. Some were chosen, some were allowed, some were cultivated through years of comfort. But now, in the rebuilding phase, you eliminate them with surgical precision. You replace hesitation with decisiveness. You replace insecurity with preparation. You replace emotional reactions with strategic responses. You replace self-doubt with self-command. This is the reconstruction of a psychological war machine. Understand this. You do not rise by becoming someone new. You rise by eliminating everything that isn't you. The real you is underneath the noise, the fear, the doubt, the conditioning. But to access it, you must strip away the mental layers that have been suffocating your potential for years. When rebuilding, you must also master the art of identity redirection. Identity is not fixed, it is fluid. Most men cling to outdated identities. I'm not that type of person. I can't do this. I've always been this way. These are self-imposed prisons. To rebuild. You must deliberately construct the identity that aligns with the man you want to become. Speak to yourself as that man would. Stand as that man would. Make decisions that man would. Every action reinforces the identity until it becomes reality. Identity follows action. It does not precede it. And once it solidifies, your mind begins operating from a higher standard without effort. Now, let's talk about boundaries, the walls of your reconstructed fortress. Weak boundaries create weak minds. Strong boundaries create clarity, focus, and inner authority. When you rebuild yourself, you must set boundaries with time, energy, people, habits, and emotions. A man without boundaries becomes a tool for others. A man with boundaries becomes a force with direction. You must say no quickly. You must walk away silently. You must protect your peace aggressively. You must prioritize your mission unapologetically. The world will resist at first. They are used to the old version of you. They expect the man who tolerated everything. They expect the man who bent under pressure, but that version is gone. Rebuilding means refusing to return to weakness, no matter how familiar it feels. And now, we arrive at one of the hardest, most powerful aspects of rebuilding, embracing solitude as your forge rather than your prison. Many men fear loneliness, believing it signals abandonment or failure. But solitude is where the real rebuilding happens. In silence, you hear the truth of your ambitions. In emptiness, you rediscover what matters. In stillness, you recalibrate your identity. Use solitude to construct your psychological armor. Sit with your thoughts long enough that they become organized, not chaotic. Train your mind to enjoy your own company. When you reach the point where you no longer fear being alone, you become a man no one can control. Because the world's greatest weapon, withdrawal of attention, no longer affects you. Another essential phase in rebuilding is developing emotional neutrality. Not emotional numbness. Neutrality, the ability to feel without being controlled. This is where stoicism intertwines with Machiavellian realism. Life will always bring pressure. People will always disappoint. Circumstances will always fluctuate. But if your emotional state remains grounded regardless of the moment, your internal structure stays unshaken. A neutral man is unpredictable. A neutral man is strategic. A neutral man cannot be provoked, manipulated, or destabilized. Neutrality keeps you sharp. Neutrality keeps you aligned. Neutrality keeps you powerful. Finally, rebuilding requires future orientation, the ability to craft a vision of the man you're becoming and walk toward it relentlessly. This vision becomes your blueprint, your map, your motivation, your North Star. Every day you move closer. Every choice, every habit, every action shapes the structure of that future self. The more clear your vision becomes, the more powerful your reconstruction. Before moving on to the next section, mark this phase of your evolution again. Comment this phrase: I rebuild myself stronger every time. Say it so your future self can recognize the moment everything changed. Number 9. The untouchable mind, your final ascension. This is the final step, the culmination of everything you've built. The clarity, the discipline, the pain-to-power transformation, the strategic mind, the controlled emotions, the sharpened focus, all of it has been preparing you for this final ascent. This is where you step into the highest version of yourself, the untouchable mind. Not invincible in a childish fantasy sense, but untouchable in a psychological sense. Untouchable because nothing external can destabilize you. Untouchable because your mind has become a fortress built on stone, not sand. Untouchable because you've learned to command your inner world with precision, authority, and deadly calm. Understand this: most people drift through life mentally naked, exposed to every opinion, shaken by every inconvenience, pierced by every criticism. They crumble because they have no internal armor. They depend entirely on circumstances to feel stable. They depend on people to feel valuable. They depend on emotions to feel directed. And because they depend on everything, they control nothing. You have chosen the opposite path, the path of sovereignty, the path of psychological self-reliance, the path of internal domination. To reach this untouchable state, you must master 3 final pillars: self-command, mental silence, and controlled dominance. Self-command is the essence of power. It means you give yourself an order and you obey. No hesitation, no negotiation, no mental rebellion. Weak men constantly fight themselves. They set goals they don't follow. They make promises they don't keep. They talk big, but act small. Their minds become a chaotic parliament where emotions argue with logic, impulses argue with reason, and fear argues with ambition. But in the untouchable mind, there is no parliament. There is a king, and the king's word is law. Self-command transforms your identity. When you say you'll wake up early, and you do, it rewrites your self-image. When you tell yourself to train, and you train, it strengthens your mental authority. When you tell yourself to remain calm, and you remain calm, you reinforce the belief that your mind responds to you, not the other way around. This is the birth of inner power. This is the root of the untouchable mind. Now we move to mental silence, the rarest psychological skill in the modern world. Silence is where the untouchable man breathes. It is his sanctuary, his throne room, his command center. You cannot be controlled by noise if you can generate silence inside you. When life becomes chaotic, you withdraw into that inner stillness. When pressure increases, you step back into that silence. When people try to provoke you, you answer from silence, not from emotion. Mental silence is not emptiness, it is clarity. In silence, you see the truth of situations. You see the motives of others. You see your next move without interference. You become like a strategist standing above the battlefield, untouched by the fog of war. The noise of the world screams for your attention, but your mind stays still. Still minds move with precision. Still minds strike with accuracy. Still minds cannot be manipulated. A silent mind is a sovereign mind. A sovereign mind is an untouchable mind. Finally, we reach controlled dominance. Not dominance over others, but dominance over your psychological ecosystem. Dominance over your impulses, your interpretations, your reactions, your thought patterns. Controlled dominance means you move through the world with deliberate intention. Every action is calculated. Every word is measured. Every response is chosen, not triggered. The untouchable man is not a slave to emotion. He is not a servant to fear. He is not a puppet to circumstance. He is not a mirror reflecting the chaos around him. He is the axis around which his world spins. People sense something different about him. They feel the collected intensity. They feel the calm power. They feel the steady presence. and they feel unsettled, not because he is dangerous, but because he is unpredictable. You cannot manipulate a man who controls his mind. You cannot intimidate a man who controls his emotions. You cannot break a man who controls his thoughts. Your untouchability is not about being feared. It's about being immovable. To maintain this state, you must continue practicing everything you've learned: the purge of toxic thoughts, the discipline of inner ruthlessness, the forging of the iron mind, the quiet endurance, the strategic solitude, the emotional neutrality, the relentless self-rebuilding, the weaponized pain, the unshakable focus. Every piece forms the structure of your internal kingdom, and kingdoms must be maintained. But here is the truth. Once a man reaches this level, maintenance becomes natural. It becomes instinctual. It becomes effortless. Why? Because the mind learns to prefer strength. It learns to crave clarity. It learns to reject weakness the same way the body rejects poison. At this level, discipline is not punishment. It is identity. Focus is not forced. It is natural. Confidence is not loud. It is silent. Power is not performed. It is embodied. You don't need to prove anything. You are the proof. Your presence is the demonstration. Your silence is the statement. Your control is the signature. You have stepped into the man who cannot be bent, cannot be shaken, cannot be dominated. You have completed the psychological transformation. Now the task is simple. Live as that man.